Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chef Aubrey, and today I will be studying for my MAPAQ exam. So feel free to join me as we go through it all. So I didn't take the exam yet, but I already studied through it like 3 weeks ago. Basically, I finished it all in under 2 hours, and then I found out that I need to schedule an exam, and the 20th was the only day that I was able to take the exam with my work schedule, so I'm reviewing it now. Granted, I don't think I really need to review it, because I've taken like hundreds of health and safety courses throughout the years. Because it's required in order to be allowed to cook in high school classes, as well as volunteering as well is needed there too, and a bunch of other instances as well. So my food handlers expired November of 2023 because I got it um, November of 2019, and I live in Montreal now, so the MAPAQ is needed instead of the food handlers. So this is why I'm studying MAPAQ instead of food handlers, which is the typical health and safety for Ontario. Alright, so let me just get all comfy. Uh, there we go. I have a latte and a water ready for me. This isn't very comfortable, but oh well. Okay, yeah. Lighting's not too bad, picture's not too bad, good. Alright. So, welcome to your course. Welcome to your food safety course. The information you will need can be found in this section. This training is divided into several sections to improve your learning experience. Various educational tools such as the Guide to Good Food, Hygiene and Safety, hyperlinks, videos, and quizzes are used to prepare you for the final exam. The Guide to Good Food, Hygiene and Safety is the reference document. As part of the training program, you will also have access to additional MAPAQ documents that may be of use to you. Please note that these documents are only available in French. They offer additional information but are not mandatory for the successful completion of this course. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Enjoy the course. For the best experience, we recommend using Google Chrome. If you are experiencing technical difficulties during your session, please consult this link for helpful hints. P.S. When a section of training is completed, remember to press complete and continue. Thanks. And here's a little book of like the Guide to Good Food and Safety. I already scrolled through all of it already. But yeah, it just goes through all these things and important topics, temperatures, all that stuff. So we're good to go. First up.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this online training course. The purpose of this class is to ensure that you have the tools and...
Oh yeah, I also had it on 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed because I didn't like how slow they were talking and I wanted to get it done as quick as possible because I didn't know that I'd have to wait 3 weeks just to take the exam. So that's why he's talking so fast.
competencies in order to safely manipulate food in the work environment. The goal is ultimately to ensure that you do not make anyone sick. When we talk about foodborne illness, also referred to as foodborne disease, what is that? It's essentially the discomfort that you feel when someone ingests food or water contaminated with either a bacteria, a virus, parasites, or chemicals. The symptoms caused by foodborne illness are abdominal pain, diarrhea, cramps, nausea, vomiting, fever, and headaches. What causes a foodborne illness? Some of the main causes are unsafe internal food temperatures, that is when food is inadequately cooked. We also have the introduction of pathogens, so either directly or indirectly, that is cross-contamination or from the environment. And we also have pathogens that we fail to destroy. So if we inadequately cook, for example, food and the pathogens that are within it are not destroyed, that can cause a foodborne illness. There are certain groups of people that are at higher risk of contracting a foodborne illness. Those would be children, pregnant people, the elderly, and people with a weakened or a compromised immune system. What's important to understand is that anyone can contract a foodborne illness, not just the people that are in the higher risk group.
Yeah, what he
toxins that can
said.
cause a rare but significant disease that involves paralysis.
Oh.
This is often associated with unacidic canned goods that were
That's not right. Here we
So what
go.
causes a foodborne illness? The answer is microorganisms. These are small creatures that are alive and invisible to the naked eye, and we categorize them in several different groups. There are bacteria, yeasts, mold, parasites, and viruses. Furthermore, we categorize them by the food that they affect. So when we look at microorganisms, there are useful microorganisms, ones that are beneficial to the food. This includes yogurt, bread, cheese, that affect the process within the food to make it better. Then we have spoilage microorganisms. These cause a visible deterioration that affects the taste, the color, the scent of the food in an adverse way. This makes the food less appetizing, less desirable. And then finally, we have our pathogenic microorganisms. These are the ones that cause the foodborne illness. You have to watch out because contrary to spoilage microorganisms that only affect the appearance of the food, pathogens do not affect the appearance. So you might have some food that looks absolutely perfect, and yet there are pathogens in it that can cause foodborne illness. Let's take a look at a couple pathogenic microorganisms that we often hear about. The first one is E. coli. E. coli is often associated with lettuces and ground beef. E. coli often attacks the brain and the kidneys, and we associate it mainly with uncooked meats that aren't cooked to a proper temperature, as well as unwashed leafy greens and improperly prepared seafood, mainly shellfish. The next one we're going to look at is Campylobacter. Campylobacter causes diarrhea. The frequent causes of Campylobacter are uncooked meat or unpasteurized milk, contaminated water, or ice. Then we have
Which is especially a big thing when it comes to people. I just want to pause so then there's not like copyright issue. So that's especially a big thing with unpasteurized milk because the big rise against pasteurized milk recently. Like you can easily just boil your water at home if you don't like pasteurized milk or unpasteurized. Anyways, don't drink unpasteurized milk. That's my piece.
Clostridium botulinum. This causes botulism. This pathogen creates neurotoxins that can cause a rare
I'm also another thing. I never heard of botulism until I tried making kimchi for the first time ever by myself, and I didn't write or anything. Don't worry, I didn't give anyone botulism. But my dad just warned me heavily to make sure I don't risk it getting botulism. So because he warned me of that, I did a lot of research into it to know what to look for when it comes to the fermentation process to make sure the kimchi doesn't get botulism. And even then, I didn't even understand the extent of botulism until like several months later when I was being taught about it in class. But yeah, I'm really glad my dad told me about botulism because I had no clue what it was. And if he hadn't told me about it, I would have been so much more lax on making my own homemade kimchi. I would have gotten heavily sick if he hadn't told me about it.
but significant disease that involves paralysis. This is often associated with unacidic canned goods that were improperly prepared. So when you think about things like asparagus, corn, carrots, anything that's low in acidity that are improperly canned can contain Clostridium botulinum. Also, we see this in processed meats that were improperly cured, such as cold cuts and smoked meat. Anything that's low in acid is at higher risk of this pathogen. The next, we have listeria. When we talk about listeria, it can cause sepsis, it can cause abortion of a fetus, or infant death. We find it in unpasteurized dairy products like milk, ice creams, and soft cheeses. We can also find it in cold cuts or smoked fish. You may remember, but in 2008, across Canada, there was 2 major listeria outbreaks, one of them that affected major food giant Maple Leafs, and it was present in cold cuts, as well as another one that involved cheeses that greatly affected a lot of artisanal cheesemakers throughout the province of Quebec and across Canada. And finally, we have salmonella. When we talk about salmonella, we often associate this with meats, poultry, eggs, mayonnaise, and prepared meals that contain this pathogen. This wraps up our brief overview of some of the more popular or prevalent pathogens. Further information is available in a link below that will send you to the MAPAQ website. So what are the growth factors for microorganisms to proliferate? There's time, temperature, water. Now, when we speak of water, it's the amount of available water within a food type. We also have acidity. So acidity between 5.5 and 7.5 is an optimal acidity for microorganisms to grow. A lot of pathogens are inhibited under 4.6. So if you have something that's very, very acidic, that could help avoid pathogen growth. We have oxygen. When we speak about oxygen, a lot of microorganisms require oxygen to exist and to grow, but certain microorganisms don't. So if we take Clostridium botulinum, for example, that causes botulism, that's an anaerobic pathogen, meaning that it doesn't require oxygen to grow. So that's why things that are vacuum packed can still be at risk of having dangerous pathogens. And finally, we have nutrients, so the amount of proteins, the amount of fats and carbohydrates within the food will also impact how microorganisms grow within it.
And yeah, it also gives us this little thing as well. Unfortunately, a lot of these sorts of documents are in French, so I have to read much more slowly when it comes to reading these things, but yeah. It goes into, I believe, this one is information on pathogens, yeah. This is information on pathogens with some of the foods that they're easy to find inside of. Anyway.
So as we've just seen, a foodborne illness can occur when someone consumes a bacteria, parasite, or a virus, but there are several other types of food hazards. There are three main categories: biological, chemical, and physical. If we look at examples of each category, for biological, we have microorganisms, as we just spoke about, parasites, all types of bodily fluids. In the category of chemicals, we have medication, chlorine, additives, anything that was used to preserve food, cleaning products, as well as allergens. And then finally, physical, we're talking about wood, hair, stones, glass, fingernails, basically anything that's a foreign object that makes its way into the food falls under the physical category. Next, we're going to talk about potentially hazardous food, and the abbreviation we're going to use is APD. APD comes from the French term aliment potentiellement dangereux that translates to potentially hazardous food. A potentially hazardous food is a food that creates an environment that is favorable to the growth of pathogenic microorganisms and the formation of their toxins. It's a food that has a high water availability, so we say an AW factor above 0.85. It's a food that contains nutrients that are going to allow the microorganisms to grow. It's also a food that's slightly acidic. So as we stated before, foods that are very acidic do offer protection against pathogens, but a food that is slightly acidic, that is a food that's above 4.6 pH, will create a favorable environment for the growth of microorganisms. Another characteristic of APDs is the fact that they must be kept in a controlled temperature environment. So examples of that is in a refrigerator between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius, in a freezer and in a frozen state at a temperature of minus 18 degrees Celsius and below, or properly heated up and maintained at a temperature above 60 degrees Celsius. There are also foods that are non-potentially hazardous that we abbreviate as ANPD. These are foods that don't require any temperature or shelf life control, and these are foods that have the following characteristics. They're either very acidic, meaning that their pH is below 4.6. It's a food that would have undergone an industrial sterilization, which would be an industrial process allowing for the food to be more resistant to any type of organism proliferation. We also have food that has a low water availability. So if we're below 0.85 of water availability, that's considered a non-potentially hazardous food. And finally, it's a food that demonstrates characteristics that hinder the rapid and progressive growth of pathogenic microorganisms. So some foods just naturally have a resistance to the development of these harmful microorganisms.
Okay. Click. Okay, whatever. I finished you. You can go now. There we go. Oh yeah, and here's the little thing where it shares the water level value of different foods and the microorganisms that can be potentially found within them. Leaf, you said 84? Oh well, it'll be brought up again soon. And then yeah, pHs. Oh right, because I already passed it, I can't take it again. Whoops.
Now we're going to talk about the
But
five
oh well.
M's. Now, the ministry's inspection approach is structured around 5 different elements that they term the 5 M's. These individual elements are material, method, manpower, machine, and medium. When you consult your guide to good food hygiene and safety, you'll notice that all of the material has been divided to fall into one of these 5 categories.
Nice. And then, yeah, here's the 5 M's. So, material. This refers to the ingredients and raw materials used in the establishment. It is important to ensure that these materials are safe and of good quality to prevent any health risks. Method. This element focuses on the processes and procedures followed in food preparation and handling. It includes practices such as proper cleaning, sanitizing, cooking temperatures, and storage methods. Manpower. The workforce element involves assessing the knowledge, training, and practices of the staff. It is important that employees have the necessary skills and understanding of food safety to maintain a hygienic environment. Machine. This element involves examining the equipment and tools used in the establishment. It is crucial that these items are in good condition, properly maintained, and suitable for their intended use. Medium. The environment element includes factors such as the layout of the establishment, ventilation, pest control measures, and waste management. An appropriate environment is necessary to prevent contamination and maintain hygiene. And then some good practices, and I already passed this quiz, which I guess it's good that you guys can't see me do the quiz because people can easily just copy it instead of actually trying to learn the health and safety standards. So yeah, I guess it's good that I can't redo the quiz.
The first of the 5 M's we'll be talking about today is material. The points that we're going to master in this section is the temperature of food, the internal food temperature, safety, origin, and labeling. Now, before going any further, I invite you to look at the material section in your guide to good food hygiene and safety.
Nah.
One of the most important factors for microorganism growth is temperature. That's why it's so important to respect the following guidelines. When we keep food at a temperature between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius, for example in a refrigerator, bacteria multiply very slowly. When we keep food below negative 18 degrees Celsius, bacterial growth stops, but they do survive. We call this freezing. When we keep food at 60 degrees Celsius or higher, bacteria stops multiplying and begin to be destroyed depending on their resistance to heat. This is called the heated temperature.
Oh yeah, and also another thing I notice a lot. So in Ontario, some health and safety food handler says 1 degree to 5 degrees, some say 0 degree to 5 degrees, some in Quebec say 0 to 4, 1 to 4. It really just depends on what test you're taking, the standards on where you're going to be working, that sort of thing. But always try to keep it within 0 and 5 degrees for a refrigerator, in that range. 0 to 4, even better.
I invite you to check the link a little lower where there's a printable cooking guide that has a very useful chart with cooking temperatures and different preservation guidelines. So how do we go about knowing the temperature of foods? To do that, we require the use of a thermometer. A thermometer is a device that's used to check the temperature, either internally or externally, of a food source. We must use these thermometers to regularly check the temperatures of our food and make sure that they are reliable and calibrated. The reliability of a thermometer must be checked regularly and kept in a log. There are 3 main types of thermometers: the infrared thermometer, the electronic thermometer, and the STEM thermometer. Infrared thermometers are used to check the external temperature of food, and STEM thermometers are used to check the internal temperature of food, because they can penetrate into the center. Regardless of the type of thermometer selected, you must make sure that...
What's an electronic thermometer then? Because I know the infrared thermometer is like a little gun. It has you can turn on the laser and all that, and it shoots out and it measures it that way. And the STEM thermometer is a stick that you stick in. Then, what's the electric thermometer? If I Google it, it'll probably show me all the regular thermometers. But let's see, electric I'm not gonna spell this right. Thermometer. Okay, so yeah, it's just gonna show me the stem and the stick, the infrared and the stem. I'd imagine stem is 2 different things because there's stem thermometers that are like the little dials, they're not really electric, and then there's also these stem thermometers that are electric, so I guess that's where that difference is.
it can be calibrated, and that's something relatively easy to do if you know how. That's what we're going to look at next. There are 2 methods of calibrating a thermometer. One is with ice and one is with boiling water. When using the ice method, we mix water and ice and make sure that the water has had enough time to reach the temperature of the ice. Then we submerge the measuring section of a STEM thermometer into the water mixture and make sure that it reads 0. If it doesn't, we use the adjustment screw to bring the indicator to the 0 mark. Similarly, if we're using the boiling water method, we bring water to a raging boil, that is, it's been boiling for about a minute, and we submerge the measuring section of the thermometer into the boiling water. The thermometer should then indicate 100 degrees Celsius. If it doesn't, use the adjustment screw to make the adjustment. You can try several times, and you can also try both methods on the same thermometer to make sure that it's properly calibrated. I now invite you to watch the short video on how to use and calibrate a thermometer. One notion that's very important to understand is the notion of the danger zone. Anytime food is kept between 4 and 60 degrees Celsius, we consider it to be in the danger zone. That's because bacteria grows very, very quickly when food is at that temperature. For example, if food is between 35 and 45 degrees Celsius, the amount of microorganisms can double every 15 minutes. The next notion that's important to understand is the cold chain. Basically, the cold chain means that you have to keep items cold, that is between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius, or below 18 degrees Celsius if they're frozen, for the entire duration of time that they are not being served. So, for example, you might have to use a refrigerated truck to transport food from one location to another. You have to make sure that it's quickly unloaded and placed into your refrigerator, and you have to make sure that all of your refrigeration units or freezer units are in good working condition and that they have the capacity to handle the amount of food that we put in them. You must know that refrigerators or freezers can get overloaded if you put too much hot food in them or if you leave the door open too long. Also, if you obstruct ventilation grills on a frozen foods counter, for example, and you restrict the circulation of cold air, this can allow food to enter the danger zone. This principle also applies when serving hot food, meaning that hot food must be maintained at a temperature above 60 degrees Celsius for the duration of time that it is being served.
Oh yeah, this is also a good one for a lot of people, especially for those people who work at Uber Eats as a grocery shopper or a personal shopper. Those people especially need to see this. I hope you guys learned something. I want to watch that. Oh, that's good.
How to use and calibrate a food thermometer. One of the easiest and most effective ways to prevent foodborne illness is to use a food thermometer. Taking food temperatures is the only reliable way to check if food is cooked safely. The most common type of service thermometer is the bimetallic stemmed thermometer. It has an indicator head, which features an easy-to-read temperature marking, an adjustable calibration nut, a stem, and a dimple. The thermometer must be cleaned and sanitized before each use, between each use, and after each use. If it is not cleaned and sanitized, bacteria may be transferred from one food to another. To clean and sanitize your thermometer, use alcohol wipes or the dishwashing method, which involves washing, rinsing, and sanitizing. Let's now look at a few examples of how to take proper food temperatures. Whenever you take a food temperature reading, be sure to completely insert the sensing area, which extends from the tip to ½ inch past the dimple. For a whole turkey, place your thermometer approximately 5 to 6 centimeters, or 2 to 2½ inches deep, in the thickest part of the turkey, away from fat, bone, or gristle. Wait at least 15 to 20 seconds, or until the needle stops. Check the temperature in a few places to make sure all parts are cooked to an internal temperature of 82 degrees Celsius or 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Be sure the food holds the required temperature for at least 15 seconds. For soups, here's a simple tip. Slip the stem into the clip loop or hole to use the case as a handle. Stir the soup often to ensure that it's evenly heated. Using the handle, place your thermometer approximately 5 centimeters or 2 inches deep into the mixture. The reading should take between 15 and 20 seconds. Cook to a temperature of 74 degrees Celsius or 165 degrees Fahrenheit. For hamburger patties, take the patty from the grill and insert the food thermometer through the side, all the way to the middle of the patty.
That's such a nice. That's something that I'm struggling with though, and I'm worried about for when I do take the exam. Because working in the kitchen, we do everything. We temp food using Fahrenheit, but on the little like mini quizzes while you're like studying for the exam, it uses Celsius. I don't want to have to just hop on Google and risk being seen as like a cheater or something just because I need to switch, just because I need to transfer from Fahrenheit to Celsius because I can't do that in my head. I don't think very many people can do that in their head. I'm worried because of that.
Your patty, fresh or frozen, is done when its internal temperature reaches 71 degrees Celsius or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Proper food temperature is key to food safety. But to ensure your thermometer's accuracy, you must regularly calibrate your thermometer using a known standard, such as the ice point method or the boiling point method. Thermocouples, digital pocket thermometers, and infrared thermometers should be calibrated according to the manufacturer's instructions. For demonstration purposes, we'll use the most common type of service thermometer, the bimetallic stemmed thermometer. The first and most conventional method is the ice point method. Fill a container with crushed ice and add clean tap water. You should have a 50-50 ice-water mixture. Now, make sure the sensing area of the thermometer is submerged in the water. Insert the thermometer at least 5 centimeters or 2 inches below the surface, being careful not to touch the sides or the bottom of the container, as this will affect your reading. Wait 30 seconds or until the needle is steady before adjusting. If you don't get a reading of 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, you need to calibrate your thermometer. Without removing the stem from the ice, use a small wrench or your thermometer's built-in adjuster and grab hold of the nut found right below the indicator head. Now, simply turn the face of the thermometer until the red needle reads 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. For the boiling point method, be sure to protect your hands from the heat. Submerge the thermometer at least 5 centimeters or 2 inches, making sure not to touch the sides or the bottom of the container. Wait 30 seconds or until the needle is steady before adjusting. If you don't get a reading of 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, you need to calibrate your thermometer. Remember that thermometers need to be calibrated on a regular basis. However, if your thermometer is subjected to extreme temperature changes or is dropped, it will need to be calibrated before the next use. Finally, it is good practice to create a calibration log sheet. Make it easily accessible to all staff so that they can refer to it and update it as needed. As you can see, a food thermometer is an essential tool that
That patty is raw.
helps to prevent foodborne illness. However, to
You
be
don't need a
reliable, it
thermometer
must be
to know
used
that
correctly.
patty
Be
was
sure
raw.
to calibrate your food thermometer regularly. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations. Understand the usage of your thermometer. Not every thermometer operates in the same way. Clean and sanitize your food thermometer before, between, and after each use. And follow recommended internal
Oh, that'll help. Screw off. Alright. Alright, 180 for chicken. That's why it weirded me out. Okay. Gram poultry and food mixtures. Yep, that all makes sense. Yep, 160. 60, good. Fish, 158. Eggs, 145. Yep.
cooking temperatures. For more helpful tips and advice,
Yeah.
Now's a good time to talk about food safety. It's the principle of making sure that we don't offer any dangerous food to the consumer. That being said, it's very important to make sure that we remove any altered food, that is food that has a strange odor, color, texture, that has become unfit for human consumption. That also includes removing food that may have been contaminated. I want to stress once again that pathogens, as you recall, will not alter food. So you have to be especially vigilant to make sure that you follow the proper guidelines to make sure that you do not contaminate food, because you cannot rely on appearance alone to see if it's been
I'm
contaminated.
hungry.
It's important to know the origin of our food and to make sure that we buy it from reputable suppliers. When we talk about meat, all meat has to come from an animal slaughtered in a provincial or federal slaughterhouse under permanent agency inspection. Eggs must be calibrated or classified. Dairy products must come from a legally recognized dairy factory. And mollusks must be clearly identified at the time of receipt, indicating their species, the date, and the area of collection. Now, don't forget to keep logs and records and all of your invoices as proof and trackers of the origin of all your products. You may have to supply this information if ever you get inspected. The final section of the material category is labeling. The label on a food product must contain the following information: the name of the product, the ingredients, the net quantity within the package, the name and the address of the supplier or the fabricator, its origin, the use, the state, and any other pertinent specifications. It must also show the best before dates. Now, this is mandatory for any product that has a best before date less than 90 days. It can show the nutritional values, and it can also show lot numbers. Other important information must in certain cases appear on the labels. This includes special storage methods, nutritional values, and lot numbers. You can follow the link below. That'll help you establish conservation times for various foods. We can't speak about labeling without speaking about allergen identification. I invite you to look at this table that has various types of allergens. It is mandatory to have in the labeling all allergens identified. Please check your guide for supplemental information regarding allergens, how they're classified, their dangers and how they affect the body, and specifications regarding how to properly label them, including other names that are used to identify them. Priority allergens, sources of gluten, and sulfites must be on the label in the ingredient list or at the end of the ingredient list with the word contains. Here's some best practices to apply when designing a label. The label must present the exact composition of the product. The ingredient list must account for any substitutions made to the original recipe. The foods must be able to provide traceability. Common names for allergens, gluten, and sulfites should be used versus their scientific names. So, for example, milk should be referred to as milk and not as casein.
Yeah. I don't want to heavily go into every single thing because, well, this is something that people make money off of, so I don't want to just provide it for free. So if you guys want to get certified, learn all this stuff, then I'd recommend paying to be able to take the course. But this is me reviewing it before my exam at 8 o'clock tonight, so figured I might as well record some sections of it.
Hi, I'm Dr. Philippe Bégin, an allergist, and I help people with food allergy. You probably know someone with one, but do you know what exactly food allergy is? A food allergy is a disorder of the immune system and is caused by your white blood cells. Your white blood cells are all over your body. They move through your bloodstream, and their role is to recognize and protect against invaders that seem harmful, like bacteria and parasites. They usually work by chasing bacteria around and eventually eat it up and digest it. But as strong as they are, white blood cells can have their limits, especially when they are faced with large invaders like parasites that are too big to be eaten up. Luckily, the immune system has a special weapon just for that. It's a white blood cell called a mast cell. These cells are all over your body, on your skin, and inside you. Mast cells basically wait there and do nothing until they encounter an invader that was previously branded as dangerous by your body. When that happens, the mast cell will blow up and release tons of chemicals, which will trigger a very strong reaction with itching and swelling to help get rid of the intruder. So, how does all of this relate to food allergy? Food allergy is when your immune system makes a mistake and brands a specific food, like peanut, as something unsafe. That means that when your body comes into contact with that food, your mast cells will see it as a dangerous intruder, like a parasite. So it will sound a false alarm and explode. This explosion of mast cells results in the allergic reaction because it's caused by a food which would have been eaten and gets distributed everywhere in your body through your bloodstream. You can potentially have almost all of your mast cells all over your body explode simultaneously. This is called anaphylaxis. It is the most serious type of allergic reaction. We will learn more about it in our next video.
I want food. I'm hungry.
Hi, it's Dr. Philippe Bégin, here to tell you about anaphylaxis, the most serious type of allergic reaction. As we learned before, an allergic reaction is the result of a mast cell overreacting after mistaking a food for something dangerous, an invader like a parasite. Mast cells are part of your immune.
I just got a good idea. Vegetarian chicken wrap. I have those Ives chicken nuggets in the freezer right now. I can toss them in the oven. Ooh, with the hash brown. And I cook up some eggs as well. Ooh, that sounds so good. Ooh, I want that. I'm gonna make that.
Immune system. Depending on where they are in the body, mast cells will have different effects when they're activated. But those effects are always meant to throw the invader out. It will cause swelling and itchiness to make you scratch your skin. In the stomach, it can make you vomit or cause diarrhea. In the lungs, it can make you produce sputum, a thick type of mucus, and will trigger the cough reflex. In your eyes, nose, ears, and throat, it can make you itch, cry, or sneeze.
There's a mac and cheese place in Montreal now. Oh damn, it's 7.4 kilometers away. That's only in Beaubien. Okay, so just take a train then. Ooh, I want to go there with my boyfriend. Let's see. Salmon mac and cheese.
Reflexes trying to get the invader out of your body. Now, what's special about food in comparison to our example of a parasite is that when you eat food, you digest it, and it gets absorbed and distributed all over to feed the cells of your entire body.
This all
so,
meat?
if you have a food allergy, this means it can potentially activate all the mast cells in your body all at once. And that's what we call anaphylaxis. It is a severe reaction to an allergen which has entered your bloodstream and is triggering the mast cells all over your body.
Gonna have to pass on the mac and cheese bowls. They all have meat in them. Like smoked meat, carbonara with sausage, truffle with mushrooms. I don't want that. Then they also have salmon, some sort of boursin of chicken, and some more mushroom. Yeah, no. Gonna have to pass on that. Bacon. Damn it. Why not just a plain mac and cheese bowl? Ugh.
And that can be really dangerous. For example,
I'm
if you have a
allergic.
peanut allergy and you accidentally eat a peanut in the stomach, it can activate the mast cells. So it might give you a stomachache or make you vomit. When it enters the bloodstream, the peanut can make you faint. When the peanut protein reaches the skin, it can make you itchy all over and give you hives. But the worst is when the allergen reaches your lungs, because it's not going in just one part of the lung. All the different parts of your lungs will start closing at once, making it harder and harder for you to breathe. And that's the most dangerous symptom. It can be life-threatening, especially if the reaction is very bad or if the person already suffers from uncontrolled asthma. What we as doctors tell people with food allergy is to avoid their food allergens so they don't experience anaphylaxis. But sometimes accidents happen. When they do, people can treat themselves or have help doing so.
Especially difficult to avoid your food allergies if you work in a kitchen. Just saying. I've had several allergic reactions, and it gotten to a point where I refuse to let anyone else cook for me when I'm in a kitchen. Because when I first started working in a kitchen, I ordered cauliflower wings. And so in the kitchen I worked in, we had vegetarian fryer, meat fryer, fish fryer. And when I ordered them, my coworker ended up putting the wings in the fish fryer. And so I ended up struggling to breathe, probably went to anaphylaxis, I don't know. I took an allergy medication and went home. But yeah, no, that happened several times. Like someone would make something for me, I'd end up having an allergic reaction because they'd skip certain steps or they didn't believe I was allergic to that thing and I had to go home early. So yeah, I just refuse to let anyone else cook for me now.
With epinephrine, which is the medicine form of the hormone adrenaline. Adrenaline is naturally made by your body and is released when you're excited. It increases your heart rate and it helps boost energy. Epinephrine comes in an auto-injector, and when it's injected in the thigh of someone having anaphylaxis, the medicine is going to get progressively absorbed in the bloodstream and travel all over your body, just like the food allergen did.
I could really go for 8 breakfast sandwiches right now.
What's great about epinephrine is that it does the opposite of anaphylaxis. It opens up your lungs, so it's easier to breathe. It makes the itching go away. It raises your blood pressure and prevents fainting. But the other thing epinephrine does that is even more important is that it actually turns off the mast cells. Here's an example. Imagine if you're having a food allergic reaction to egg because you accidentally ate some and you're allergic to it. As they come in contact with the egg protein, the mast cells in your body will start blowing up and releasing chemicals, causing you to have symptoms of an allergic reaction. With time, as your body keeps absorbing more and more of the allergen, the egg in this case, you will see more and more mast cells activate, and the allergic reaction will get worse. But if you use epinephrine quickly enough, as soon as the reaction is starting, you're going to start turning off those mast cells. So it's too late for those first mast cells that already reacted, but when the egg allergen reaches those other mast cells, they're not going to react. This is why you want to treat anaphylaxis with epinephrine as fast as you can, because you have a small window of time to actually stop the reaction altogether. In case you aren't sure it's anaphylaxis, it's still best to give it, because epinephrine is not dangerous. It is a natural hormone already in your body. With that, I hope you learned a lot about the immune system.
Bitch. $6.39 for a small McFlurry? Are you kidding me? Maybe I'm missing something? Nope, it's a small McFlurry. Screw you.
Mast cells, and the importance of epinephrine in treating anaphylaxis.
The McDonald's by my place serves sliced cantaloupe. I want to try. Get the sunscreen for you guys. I know it's sideways, but They serve sliced cantaloupe? I understand, like, apples, but cantaloupe? That cantaloupe's probably covered in bacon fat.
They had terrible skin, like eczema. We didn't really know why. And with my son, he was very sickly as a child, and he was always vomiting. And when it came to the 6-month period where you're supposed to introduce milk in cereal, he had an anaphylactic reaction in the high chair, where his lips and his tongue all swelled up, and he ended up being an urgent referral to an allergist.
That must have been terrifying.
I'm allergic to peanut, tree nut, basically all types of seeds. Peanuts, tree nuts, sesame, shellfish, eggs, and milk.
At the age of 2.5, he got a flick of milk out of a straw into his eye, and he was not breathing in less than 5 minutes.
I started to swell up, and I couldn't breathe. And as soon as my mom gave me the EpiPen,
$2.99 for a pound of tomatoes. Dang. I must be misreading that. $10 for a pound of ox shank? It must be.
I took a deep breath. I ran around that corner, counter, and hid.
Going to the grocery store initially when I was learning could take up to 2 hours to do. But if I didn't have the labeling on the containers or boxes, where I could very quickly, like it's been simplified from when I first had to start doing this. So when you look at something, it's just the labeling is much clearer and much more, it's self-explanatory. Like you don't have to try and guess. I can just very easily go to the bottom of the ingredients and see out of the top 8 allergens what is in there. Knowing especially what is in everything I buy has helped to make me feel safer and the kids feel safer, knowing that, you know, what I'm giving you is really that it is safe, that there's nothing in there that's going to make you sick.
Le Canada a un des meilleurs systèmes pour ce qui est de la salubrité des aliments et l'analyse allergène, ça ne fait pas exception. Les choses ont beaucoup évolué au niveau des allergènes alimentaires. Donc, depuis le début de ma carrière, on a vu le nombre de demandes d'analyse qui a vraiment explosé. Nous, au laboratoire, on a dû réagir à ça, y faire face, développer des nouvelles méthodes. Donc, en 2001, on avait seulement 4 méthodes. Donc, au fil des années, on a fait des projets de recherche. On a implémenté des méthodes pour chacun des allergènes qui figurent à la liste d'allergènes prioritaires du Canada. Aujourd'hui, on utilise plus de 70 méthodes pour pouvoir répondre aux demandes d'analyse. La CIA est un chef de file dans le domaine de l'analyse des allergènes alimentaires. Non seulement on utilise des technologies de pointe, mais on utilise aussi des méthodes performantes pour s'assurer que
Can you go back to English? I'm trying to scroll through cheese.
I get
There we
alerts
go.
by email from CFIA about foods that have been recalled, basically. So that have either initially did not think that there was a food allergen in it, but then was found to have something. So I get those all of the time, and it alerts me to, did I buy this and, you know, I shouldn't be using it anymore, or changes to the ingredients to a product that maybe I have been using and that I can no longer continue using.
Ce que je trouve intéressant, c'est vraiment que mon travail a un impact sur les gens qui sont allergiques, mais pas seulement les gens qui ont l'allergie, aussi sur leur famille et leurs proches. Le travail qui est fait ici, c'est un travail qui est important. Quand on s'aperçoit que dans le journal, au lendemain d'une journée de travail, on voit qu'il y a eu un rappel alimentaire, c'est très, très satisfaisant de penser que toute l'équipe a pu contribuer à ça aussi de belle façon, puis que d'un certain côté, on pourrait éviter à certaines personnes allergiques de faire une réaction.
Anyway.
My mom and I have celiac disease. What can you do to help protect people like us?
That is a great question, Colin. Some people like you and your mom are diagnosed with celiac disease. Celiac disease is an autoimmune condition where your body reacts to gluten when you eat it. Gluten is naturally found in wheat, rye, barley, and triticale foods like bread and pasta, but it can also be found in processed packaged foods like soy sauce or chocolates. At the Canadian Celiac Association, we are here to support people like you and your mom. We share information about celiac disease and what foods to eat or to avoid, along with other ways to help you stay healthy. We also support research and help bring people together so no one feels alone on their journey.
Thank you, Colin, for your question. If a food has an ingredient that could make someone sick, like you and your mom, it needs to say so on the label, so you know not to eat it. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency checked that food in Canada is sold with the right label on it. Part of my job is testing food in our lab here to check if it has the right information on its label. If we do find something wrong with a label, we spring into action right away. Sometimes that means telling a company to take the food product off store shelves. It can also mean telling families, like yours, to check their kitchen and throw away or return food that people with celiac disease should not eat. If someone has an allergy or an intolerance, whether it's to gluten, nuts, or something else, it is really important to always read the label carefully. Grown-ups can help you with this. And now for the grown-up watching. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Sign up today for our food recall and allergy alert notification. Bye, Colin. Stay safe.
A bunch of stuff. Quiz that I already passed.
Now we're going to talk about the methods section of this training. In this section, we learn how to avoid contaminations, the best practices for cooking, defrosting, cooling, reheating, cleaning, and sanitation, as well as necessary controls and documentations. But before we move any further, I invite you to read the methods section in your guide. So how to avoid contamination? There are two types of contamination, direct and cross-contamination. When we talk about direct contamination, we talk about foods that come into direct contact with a known source of pathogen, chemical contaminant, allergens, or a foreign body. Examples of this can be foods that come into contact with feces, dirty water, insects, raw meat or its juices, or allergens. When we talk about cross-contamination, we talk about food that comes into contact with equipment, work surfaces, or hands that have been contaminated by a known source of pathogens or a chemical contaminant, including allergens. For example, touching a workstation, hands, or tools that were improperly cleaned and sanitized. Let's now look at the methods to avoid contamination. Above all, washing your hands frequently is very important. We also have to clean and sanitize equipment, utensils, and work surfaces that have been in contact with raw foods before handling cooked or ready-to-eat foods. Wash and sanitize brushes, scrubbing instruments, towels used for cleaning and sanitation, and they must be changed regularly. Don't use the same frying oil to cook different foods. Avoid placing containers on counters that have been in contact with the ground. I invite you now to look at the video below and ask that you try to identify all of the practices that could cause contamination and think about how you could avoid them.
Wait, I didn't get to watch the video down below.
So how to avoid contamination? There are two types of
Shut
contamination,
up.
direct and cross-contamination.
Let's watch the video.
Oh, let's see. Cupcakes, salads, veggies, sandwiches. Okay, 12:15. Yikes! Eddie hates tomatoes. Amit likes tomatoes. Emma and Janie like anything. And Alexa, what is it about Alexa? I know there's something. Hello? Can I call you later, Mom? I've got 14 kids here for a birthday. Bye. Oh, forgot to cut Alexa's sandwich. Knife. Here we go.
Susan could be about to make a big mistake. Can you figure out what it is?
No peanuts.
Let's see. What was it? The phone rang, I was almost done making the sandwiches, and oh, yeah! Alexa! Peanut allergy. That's it. Better make sure I put this knife and the jar of peanut butter away.
Cross-contamination happens.
Here's a new knife.
Find out how you can protect your family and your guests at healthycanadians.gc.ca.
There, now we can continue. Oh yeah, this one. This one's a nightmare. It's so bad. Alright, I'm gonna go put my chicken nuggets and hash browns into the oven. And then we can continue this. Because I want that fucking vegan chicken sandwich. Oh, that's gonna be so good. Ah. say 5. I can always snack on the extra if it's a little too much. Alright, where are my molds? There they are. This shit is fire. I don't know if you guys can see. This shit is fire. How many do I have left? 4. Damn. Oh well. Can't bring. Pick a nice square. Cookie. But she'll toss in the cookie shortly after. Should I toss in some tofu? I'm not sure. Nah, I won't. Alright, let's toss. Whee! Alright, let me know when it's been 20 minutes. I'm sure you guys can let me know. What is it? There it is. I'm sure you guys can let me know. It is currently 3:47. It is currently 3:47. It's gonna be 4:07 when I need to flip the things. Alright. Let's go. Yeah, this video you're supposed to spot how many things she's doing wrong. Love how much more furious it is with the 1.5 times speed. Looks more malicious at this rate. Still curious as to what the hell that salad was. Ah, that slide.
Dum-da-dee-da-dum.
You're pretty cheerful.
Yep. It's a gorgeous day. Perfect for hanging the clothes out to dry.
Sure is. Hey, why is this shopping bag hanging here?
So, why is this shopping bag hanging with the laundry?
Because it was washed, therefore it needs to be dried.
Juices from foods, such as raw meat, poultry, and fish, can leak and contaminate your reusable bags and bins, as well as other foods. So, wash your bags and bins regularly. For more tips on how to keep your family healthy.
Joke's on you, I don't buy that stuff. But yeah, no. I just get new bags every time. I know they're reusable, but I order mine from Uber Eats, so I'm not really able to give the bags to the shoppers for them to bring back to me, because they just go straight to the store. So I have a ton of extra bags, which I tend to give to my boyfriend whenever he forgets a bag when he comes over, and I give him food for him to bring home. Oh well.
And safe. Visit healthycanadians.gc.ca.
Sometimes when I'm at my husband's Ultimate Games, I'll see people with their extra clothes in there and their running shoes and cleats, and I've actually seen people leave the gym with their dirty clothes in there as well.
They're everywhere, and not just for carrying groceries anymore. Reusable bags can be found from the gym to the laundromat. While environmentally friendly, bags or bins can pick up bacteria from the foods they carry. So what can you do to protect you and your family? Well, here are some tips that can help lower the risk of cross-contamination. Wash cloth bags frequently, especially after carrying fresh produce, meat, poultry, or fish. If your bag is not machine washable, turn the bag inside out and use hot soapy water to wipe it clean. Place your meat, poultry, or fish in plastic bags, such as the clear bags you can find in the produce and some meat sections. Fresh produce should also always be placed in plastic bags as well. Pack your meats and fresh produce in their own bags, separate from canned and dry goods. If you notice that juices from your food have leaked into the bag or bin, make sure you wash them before using them again. If you're using your grocery bags or bins to store or transport non-food items, they should be thoroughly washed before using them for groceries. So what's in your bag? Take a look, stay safe, and look for more food safety tips and information on the safe use of reusable grocery bags and bins at healthcanada.gc.ca.
I was really scared for a second that the cauliflower was a thing in me, because I was shaking from side to side and didn't know what was happening, but I thought they were about to do a big, hold a second, and zoom in on the meat in the produce bag, but no, it's just cauliflower.
Properly cooking food destroys pathogenic microorganisms and ensures the safety of the food. Please take a look at the cooking table in the link below to see more information on this subject. And also, remember that semi-cooking food is strictly prohibited. It's essential to always follow the time temperature curve. This allows you to make sure that your food is always outside of the danger zone, and always make sure to take temperatures at the center of the food without touching bones or fat with the thermometer. When we look at microwave cooking, it's important to make sure that we turn the food frequently or stir it. Always make sure that we cover in order to retain moisture. Wait at least 2 minutes once the food is finished cooking to make sure that the internal temperature becomes 74 degrees Celsius or higher throughout the entire piece of food. And always make sure to use containers that are designed for the microwave oven. You can now look at the following links and videos for other helpful hints on various things such as preparing tartare and beef products, and we also have information on the various cooking temperatures for all different types of foods.
Everybody loves a perfectly cooked hamburger, but how do you know when it's done? Whether you are cooking your hamburger on the stove or barbecue, be sure to preheat it well. Then, to know when it's done, use a digital instant read thermometer, slid into the side. The temperature should read 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how you know you have the perfectly cooked hamburger every time. Load it up with your favorite toppings and enjoy.
Ta-da. Yeah. Stuff.
When we talk about thawing, there are several methods of thawing food. One of them is in the refrigerator. Another is putting it under cold running tap water, in the oven combined with cooking, or in the microwave followed immediately by cooking. It's to note that you must never defrost food at room temperature. The reason being that the surface of the food will defrost much quicker than the center. This surface will then enter the danger zone, and microorganisms will develop much, much quicker. This applies for all potentially hazardous foods. And we must also note that we can never thaw and refreeze a potentially hazardous food. The reason being that there's micro droplets of water that exit the food while it's thawing, and these little droplets contain food particles that are a perfect environment for microorganism growth. The microorganisms will multiply very, very rapidly, and when we refreeze the food, as we remember, we do not kill the microorganisms, we only preserve them. So once we go and thaw it again, there will be a much, much higher amount of microorganisms in your food. We can also note, though, that non-potentially hazardous food can be thawed on the counter. If we talk about cooling methods, the idea is getting the food from a hot state to a cold state and passing through the danger zone as quickly as possible. When we do this, we want to make sure that food goes from 60 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius in less than 2 hours. Then it must go from 21 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius in less than 4 hours. That means that the total cooling time cannot be any longer than 6 hours. Here's a few tricks in order to do that. Divide your food into smaller portions. Cut large pieces of meat into smaller pieces. Use containers that are shallow and have a large surface area, and they're made of materials that promote thermal heat transfer. Use an ice water bath and stir. Use a blast chiller. Don't cover the food too tightly while you're cooling it. And make sure that you promote free air circulation within the environment that you're using to cool. So how do we go about the safe reheating of foods? When we reheat food that has been priorly cooked and then cooled, we have to make sure that we bring it up to temperature within a period of not more than 2 hours. The food must hit an internal temperature of 63 degrees Celsius for at least 3 minutes, or 74 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds before maintaining it in a heated environment. Now, you have to make sure that you have proper equipment to do this. Please take note that most pieces of equipment that are made to just maintain heat do not have the capacity to heat food fast enough to respect these timelines. So sometimes you have to use one piece of equipment to heat your food up to the required temperature and only use your heating equipment to maintain the safe temperature. The cleaning and sanitizing section is very important. Sanitizing is probably a new principle for most of you, and we're going to learn about it here. In order to properly clean all surfaces that come in contact with food, we must follow these steps. First, there's washing, which involves the pre-wash, the wash, and the rinse, followed by sanitizing. Please note that washing and sanitizing are two different practices that go hand in hand. Washing removes all particles that may come in contact with the food, while sanitizing reduces to a safe level the quantity of microorganisms present on a surface. There are two methods of sanitizing. The first is thermal, where your surface is brought up to a temperature of either 77 degrees Celsius for 30 seconds or at least 82 degrees Celsius. The second method is a chemical sanitizing, and in this case we must follow the manufacturer's recommendation. This includes the concentration, the mode of use, the water temperature, the contact time, and whether or not we have to rinse the surface after we're done. Here are some methods for cleaning and sanitizing. What we want to do is use products that are designed for food use. Preferably, we would like to use a 3-compartment sink. Dishcloths should be washed and rinsed after use. Never use metal pads or brushes. Always close lids and store chemicals away from foods. Promote the rotation of chemicals. That means to use the older ones first so that they don't lose their power over time. Clean and sanitize cleaning equipment. Never mix different products. And a dry cleaning should only be carried out to remove non-potentially hazardous foods. When should we clean and sanitize? Essentially, we want to clean and sanitize every time we cut or handle different raw meats on the same work surface, when you peel unwashed vegetables and then prepare ready-to-eat foods, when containers containing potentially hazardous foods are completely empty, or whenever a contamination occurs. So for example, if you drop a utensil on the floor, you must clean and sanitize it before using it again. Now we're going to see different cleaning frequencies. I invite you to take a look at this table to see different times where cleaning is required. And for further information, we invite you to check out the link at the end of this training. And
We're
to wrap up this
almost
section
done.
on method, we recommend that you keep procedures and logs up to date in order to be in complete control of all food-related protocols.
Okay.
And now we move on to the section about manpower. In this section, we'll be learning about proper hand washing, attire, health and injuries, as well as qualifications. Before we move on, I invite you to read the section on manpower in your guide. As we've mentioned earlier, hand washing is an extremely important step of maintaining proper food safety. The steps to washing hands is to wet them, soap them, rub fingernails, hands and wrists, rinse, and dry with a paper towel. Remember that a proper hand washing takes at least 20 seconds, and that antiseptic gels do not replace a proper hand washing. Included on this platform is a link to a hand washing chart where you see the proper way of doing it in pictograph form. Let's take a brief moment to talk about wearing gloves. Wearing gloves sometimes provide a false sense of security, and they do not replace the washing of hands. Gloves, in fact, are not...
This is something that a lot of people need to listen up on, because so many people go after cooks who make videos and they are not wearing gloves in their videos. This is why gloves do nothing, and well, not nothing. Gloves don't compare to just regular old hand washing, and this is why. Listen up.
Not necessary if your hands are clean and uninjured. If you do have an injury on your hands, then wearing gloves are necessary to cover the wound. Wearing gloves that are made or dusted with latex is prohibited, and they should only be used once, never washed or reused. They must be replaced as soon as they're soiled or torn, when we change tasks or we prepare different foods, after handling raw foods and before handling cooked or ready-to-eat foods, after touching a contaminated surface, or whenever there's a risk of food contamination. When talking about proper work attire, we must wear clean clothing that's used exclusively for the work in question. We wear a hat or a hairnet that completely covers the hair. This includes beard and mustache hair. Before starting your shift, remove watches, bracelets, rings, earrings, necklaces, jewelry, and any other object that could fall into a food product. Nails must be kept short, clean, and without polish. Health and injuries. Anyone who is sick, indisposed, or injured can contaminate food as they handle it, and thus affect its safety. In these situations, certain rules apply. Any person who handles food and who exhibits enteric symptoms, such as diarrhea and vomiting, must be removed from their work environment for a period up to 48 hours after symptoms have completely disappeared, or be reassigned to tasks which do not present a risk of transmission of the infectious agent to food or another person. A person who presents apparent jaundice must be removed from the workplace until 1 week after the start of the disease. Persons with an infected skin syndrome on a visible area should not be assigned to food preparation or washing material and equipment. People with an uninfected skin syndrome should cover the wound with a clean, waterproof dressing. Note that if the wound is on the hand, wrist, or forearms, gloves must be worn over this dressing. The personnel on site must be qualified according to the existing requirements relating to operations. These are operations such as production, preparation, food processing, control, and any other operation having an impact on food safety.
I already know all this. Almost time
For
to
the
flip my
machine section of
food.
this training, we'll be looking at things such as equipment and utensils, as well as food packaging. But before we get started, please read the machine section in your guide.
We're almost done.
First, we're going to look at the
So
characteristics of
far.
equipment and utensils. These should be kept
not
clean,
bad.
be non-toxic and in good condition, be easy to disassemble for cleaning and sanitizing, have smooth, non-absorbent
I'm actually going through it much faster now than before, but then again, it's likely because I'm not taking the quizzes.
surfaces that cannot be corroded or are free from pitting cracks and crevices,
Or doing the
resist the
readings.
treatments to which they are subjected, such as cleaning and sanitization, be unalterable by the products and manufactured in a way to not alter the products, be kept safe from contamination. They must never come into contact with waste, the ground, or other unsuitable surfaces. Next, we're going to talk about packaging. Packaging used in catering and retail must provide protection against biological, chemical, and physical risks of contamination. This will increase the shelf life of the food products and limit the losses of food linked to packaging deterioration or fragile foods during transportation and handling. When we talk about bulk sale, items must be placed in closed containers and accompanied by appropriate utensils. Feel free to click the link below to get more information on bulk sales. One thing to note is that merchants may refuse to serve food in containers belonging to the consumers. If the merchant does allow consumers to provide their own containers, he must make sure that these containers are clean and that they don't present a risk to the other utensils and equipment on site used for the food preparation. They must also wash their hands more frequently, and if they claim that there are no allergens in their food, they can no longer claim so if they accept consumer containers on site. The final section of the 5 M's is medium. In this section, we'll cover environmental sources of contamination, insects, animals, and their excrements, and drinking water supply. Before we move forward, please read the medium section in your guide. When we look at the exterior of the building, make sure that all waste is placed in clean, closed, and waterproof containers that are inaccessible to insects and other animals. Garbage removal should be done frequently in order to avoid accumulation and overflow. Inside the building, we have to make sure that hand washing facilities are in sufficient number and properly located. They must be supplied with clean, hot and cold water and equipped with a sink, a mixing tap, a soap dispenser, and individual single-use towels. Floors, walls, doors, and ceilings must be washable, smooth, and crack-free. Windows, screen doors, and air vents must be adjusted to prevent the entry of any animals, insects, or rodents. The building must be kept free of contaminants, pollutants, any type of animals, including insects and rodents, as well as their excrements. Food storage and preparation areas, as well as other sanitary facilities, must be kept clean. The premises must be ventilated, and these ventilation devices must be installed in such a way to prevent contamination of the food. Lighting must be protected from breakage in the food preparation and storage areas. Trash cans must be provided to temporarily store waste indoors. These waste containers must be waterproof, non-absorbent, rigid, and fitted with a lid. They must be kept clean and sanitized as soon as they're emptied. As we just stated, it's important to prevent the entry of insects and animals into the premises. Here's a few tips. Check regularly for insects, animals, and their droppings. Protect openings with mosquito net or grills. Check product packaging and discard if damaged. Keep the surroundings of the establishment clean, and store pesticides in secure locations and ensure that they will never come into contact with food products. As a side note, extermination firms can help you implement preventative or corrective measures if a problem arises. When it comes to the drinking water supply, water used for food preparation, cleaning and sanitizing, and ice making must be potable. If it does not come from the municipal aqueduct, it must be analyzed twice a year, preferably in the fall and spring, and treated as necessary. Hot and cold water must be available on the premises. Additionally, the hot water temperature should reach at least 60 degrees Celsius or higher. It is also important that you know what to do in the case of a boil advisory. For more information on this subject, please consult the following link.
And then here's all the information on potable water, what it means, what to do, yada yada. And then we got the quiz. Then I'm gonna pause here.
Débrancher et démonter les équipements.
Because it is time for me to pause again and then flip my food. So, I will be right back. Food. I really hope my mic didn't pick up on that. Alright, but should I do 1 or 2 eggs? How should I make the eggs? Should have probably thought about that before I started all this. Huh. I'd say scrambled? Yeah, I'll do scrambled. Yeah, I'll do 2 eggs. Let's see. Oh yeah, definitely 2 eggs. I have 12 eggs left. The month is almost over. Plus my milk is expiring. Shit, tomorrow. Goddamn. So yeah, definitely scrambled eggs. I'm gonna toss some veggies in there as well. It's gonna be a few minutes because I also have to set up the tortilla and all that. Seasonings. I need paprika and chili flakes, as well as salt and pepper. I should check the time when I flip them around. I'd say they've been in there for like, I don't know. Let's just assume 3 minutes. Alright. They're definitely in there for more than 3 minutes, so let's assume 3 minutes. Alright, tortilla. Tortilla, tortilla, na, tortilla. Honestly, I might need 2. Yeah, it takes 2. Don't worry, everybody. Shouldn't be much longer till I'm done. All good? I just got scared by my hair. Alrighty. Oh, sweet. Got 10 minutes to spare. Nice. Scrambled eggs have been cooked. Gonna warm them up in like 5 minutes. And everything else is in the oven. Toss some cookies in there as well. So let's watch the first few minutes of this summary video. Make sure it's in 2x. Good. Oh yeah, did you guys know that Loblaws is being boycotted? It's because they're introducing scanners at the self-checkout where you scan your receipt in order to like try and prevent theft and all that, and because of that, people are boycotting them, which I'm especially happy about because that means the stock is going to drop and that means I can buy in. I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead with the boycott, everyone. I'm going to make some money when that boycott's done.
En tant qu'employé de détaillant en alimentation, vous êtes appelé à manipuler des aliments.
But then there's also the worry on the other end of things, like if people don't boycott them, then there's going to be less theft at Loblaws, henceforth more revenue, raising the stock price even more, making me unable to buy in. So I just gotta contemplate that a bit. That is also another possibility. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Or, les aliments ne sont pas une marchandise comme les autres. Leur manipulation exige une attention et des précautions particulières, car il faut éviter qu'ils ne deviennent contaminés et impropres à la consommation. Ce risque est bien réel. La contamination qui survient dans les établissements de vente au détail est la cause d'une partie des toxi-infections alimentaires signalées chaque année au Québec. Ces toxi-infections sont presque toujours le résultat d'une méthode de préparation ou de conservation inappropriée. Les aliments constituent en effet un milieu privilégié pour le développement des bactéries et d'autres micro-organismes. Si certains micro-organismes sont utiles pour fabriquer des produits comme le fromage et le yogourt, d'autres causent la...
Oh, I just realized it's all in French. That's why I didn't watch through the entire thing. Oh. Yeah, no, I ain't watching through all that. So yeah, this is the one that I registered for. I first completed this like at the start of March, I believe. And yeah, I had to wait like 3 weeks. Like 2-3 weeks. But yeah, my exam's tonight. I'm looking forward to it. This took far less time than I expected it to, but hey, there is the MAPAQ exam review. If you guys are planning on taking your MAPAQ, there's some information at 1.5 to 2x speed. And this looks weird. And I hope you guys all had fun waiting for me to get back for like 13 minutes as I was working on my dinner. But yeah, I hope you guys have all enjoyed and wish me luck. See you.